Okay, so um I feel really bad for ending the game BioShock because I'm so confused. I will take it back. I will start playing again, but probably in the fall because I'm going away in 2 weeks and I won't be able to play. I believe I won't be able to play anything unless I take my laptop with me and etc. Which I have a feeling I won't because I have a PC. Anyway, I'm going back to Norway. Yes, I'm going back to my home country, my America. I don't know how to say that. What I want to say is I want to play The Long Dark because chapter 5 of the winter mute, is coming out the end of June, which could be around now, I think. And I've always wanted to do those chapters with YouTube, but I don't want to like jump into chapter 5 and then anybody has like no idea what the story is. So I will replay every single story, even though I remember everything, and I had to redo some stuff that I found difficult. Oh my god, I have to redo the last chapter. I freaking hated the last chapter. I struggled with it so much. I was stuck on it for months. Yeah. Actually, no. Sorry, F that. I do not want to replay those chapters again. But I can in fact give you guys like a here's what happened. Let me tell you about it. So, the first chapter, sorry. Let me ooh, see it's a whole new different game. The first chapter is about ooh, my screen went black. What the fuck? Uh Give me one moment. Ah, again. Okay. Let me turn on the music a little bit while I am talking. Still hear the music. So, in chapter 1, we meet Astrid Greenwood and Will Mackenzie and their ex-husband and ex-wife. So it's a little bit little arguments like, oh, God, please do this. I'm like, no. Like they still care about each other, but like they're divorced for a reason, you know. So he is a pilot and she is a freelance medical doctor. And is a okay, so the Long Dark. Sorry, I'm so bad at explaining things. But The Long Dark is a game about like the winter apocalypse. Like it's so cold. It's so cold. It's like Atlantic. It is so fucking cold and there's like barely nobody lives there. In the survival game, not the story mode, you meet nobody. You find dead bodies and wolves and bears trying to kill you and mooses might try to kill you too if you don't get too close. And there's that. In the story mode, there's the same thing. Wolves can still kill you, bears can still kill you. You can find dead bodies, but you can also find other people because you need to like get somewhere. Um, so in the first and second chapter, we play as Mackenzie. We call him. His name is Will Mackenzie, but we call him Mackenzie. It's Mackenzie and Astrid. Um, and in the third chapter, we play as Astrid, and in the fourth chapter, we play as Mackenzie again, and the fifth chapter, I have no idea. Yes. So, first chapter. Astrid comes over to his little hut. He lives in a little small garage hut with his plane. And she's like, hey, I need you to fly me over to where? Here, right now, today. Don't don't think about it. Do it right now. And then he's like, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think so. No. And then she's like, I have to do this. If you're not gonna take me, I'm gonna go there myself. And he's like, no, that's not gonna happen. Like, I'm not gonna. It's like a really bad weather, like a stormy weather outside. Very cold, very blizzard. So blizzard outside, yes. And he's like, fine, I'll take you. So they drive over. Guess what? The plane doesn't like it. It's a small plane. It's not a big plane. It's a really small one, and they crash. He wakes up. We don't know how many days it's been. She's gone. The medical case that she needed is still there. So we start looking for her, but we can't find her anywhere. Where is she? Where did she go? Did she fall off and die? And And all he knows is that he had to get this medical case into, what was it called again? Just give me a second. Oh, somewhere. They had to go somewhere. Yeah, actually I could read this overview on Astrid Greenwood's Wikipedia. So, Dr. Astrid Greenwood is a freelance medical doctor and the ex-wife of Will Mackenzie. After an unexpected confrontation between the two, sometime before the first flare, which is episode 1, Astrid seeks Will out for years of being apart. Will's skill and determination as a bush pilot make him Astrid's best hope to reach an isolated town in the north of Great Bear Island, where a patient of hers awaits treatment. After hesitating at first, Mackenzie agrees to fly her out in the bad weather. During a tense conversation alluding to a shared, devastating loss, a bright flash of light blazes across the sky. The first flare events send their small plane crashing to the ground on the northern wilderness. The two are separated and forced to survive in the unforgiving reality of the quiet apocalypse, which is basically how it goes. Yes. So, shortly after the crash, Astrid makes her way to Milton, leaving the case and her pack behind, possibly due to injuries. And upon arrival, she finds the schoolhouse burning down, along with the people inside it. She tries to save them, but is attacked by a group of convicts, including Hobbs, and is forced to defend herself, which includes stabbing Hobbs. She is pursued to the tunnel and crawls under the prison bus, fighting pursuivants in blood before escaping to the other side. Yeah, so that happened to her, and we're playing as Will Mackenzie in episode 1. So this is what happened to him. It is way longer because a lot more happened. If I'm gonna tell you later, I'm gonna write it in the description if you want to like skip all this, and just start playing. Yeah. Okay. After waking up and recovering from the plane crash, a day after the first flare occurred, Mackenzie makes his way out of the ravine he was stuck in. Sorry. Looking for Astrid along the way, he finds his way to road leading him to the town of Milton. He arrives to find the town abandoned. Only one structure shows signs of life. He meets Grey Mother, an elderly, seemingly blind woman, in her home after she fires a warning shot at him. She explains to him how all the residents have fled after the storm, fearing they might become trapped in the town after the first flare and a serious storm hit the town. After, she tasks Mackenzie with fetching her firewood and food. She explains to him how the power went out and people started to get cold, hungry, and scared, and how eventually the few remaining fled. She mentions how a stranger, suggested to be Astrid, passed through the town with angry voices trailing her. Grey Mother tells Mackenzie to go investigate the tunnel at the end of the road. Mackenzie arrives at the tunnel to find it collapsed. A crashed prison transport bus showed signs that Astrid might have passed through. In the bus, the word "pursuivants" is written on the floor, is what is presumed to be blood. Mackenzie goes back to Grey Mother, and she gives him one final task: to visit the old farmhouse and retrieve her key to their lockbox in the bank. After Mackenzie retrieves her safety deposit box, he finds out it was all for a piece of jewelry special to Grey Mother. She tells him to bring the post to Lily at the graveyard. At first, Mackenzie is confused, but eventually realizes that Lily was Grey Mother's daughter. Upon returning, she tells him the story of how her daughter died. Grey Mother gives Mackenzie the key to her daughter's trunk, where he finds climbing equipment. She tells him how to leave the area and to leave her behind, and she cannot escape the town, even if she wanted to. Mackenzie bids farewell to Grey Mother and leaves Milton through the back mountains. His rope snaps on the way down, but he recovers and continues on to cave. Upon entering and going through the cave, he finds his way to Mystery Lake, where he encounters Jeremiah, the old trapper. Being attacked by the old bear, he grabs the trapper's rifle and fires at the old bear, ending the episode. I remember doing that. I struggle with that, so that's why I don't want to play it all again. Episode 2 is even longer. After helping Jeremiah to his cabin and healing him up, Mackenzie awaits the old trapper's awakening. After Jeremiah wakes up, he tells Mackenzie to go search for better medication at the Carter Hydro Dam. Mackenzie makes his way to an old Carter Dam where he learns that it's been abandoned for a while. He finds the control room to be locked and that it needs power to be turned on. Mackenzie finds the meds and returns to Jeremiah. Jeremiah awakens once again. After Mackenzie gives him the meds, he assures Will that the only way they'll survive is if they kill the old bear. Mackenzie then asks him if he saw the aurora when the first flare event happened. Jeremiah says that he has never seen anything like it before and that the wildlife has been acting strangely. Jeremiah proposes that the two help each other survive. After that, Jeremiah tells the tale of the old bear. We get to know that the bear could only be killed by a spear, which has been used by the Spencer family. By the legend, the bear spear is still in Spencer's family hunting lodge on the way to the other side of Broken Railroad. Mackenzie encounters the bear twice. Mackenzie travels to the lodge and finds a spear, then goes back to the maintenance shed to repair it. After accidentally falling over a dead survivor, he finds a note from a group called the Forest Talkers. Mackenzie then travels back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah declines Mackenzie's offer to leave and suggests Jeremiah's survival school as a means to help Mackenzie learn to survive. This is currently a side quest in episode 2. When we get to Jeremiah, he tells Will that he could turn on the radio, but couldn't get any useful information. The old device has barely caught a bit of music and talking. We have to get some radio parts from the signal towers in Forlorn Muskeg. The 3 towers are marked on the map. 2 of the 3 towers are guarded by the old bear. On the way back to Jeremiah, Mackenzie gets attacked by the bear at the tunnel between Mr. Lake and Forlorn Muskeg. This is a scripted part, cannot be avoided. The bear attacks Will, knocking him unconscious and then drags him to his den, which can be found at the top region of the Forlorn Muskeg. Yes, the map is still available. This interrupts the quest Signal to Noise and start the quest What One Man Can Do. Will has to navigate through the labyrinth-like den to find his spear and kill the bear finally. Then, Mackenzie gets back to Jeremiah and gets immediately unconscious again. When wakes up, an aurora is in progress, and the radio seems to work. That's the thing. Pause. That's the thing. When the aurora is outside, electricity starts working again. And let's say that you're in a house and electricity is working and there's water there, you will get electrocuted. But if it's in the middle of the day, you're fine. And sometimes at nighttime, it's not aurora. It's like here and there. It's very randomized. But it's really pretty. It's so pretty. Like the way they made the game is so gorgeous. Oh, where was I? Yeah. Will sits down to the radio and starts finding a frequency to communicate. During his tries, the radio breaks and cannot be used again. Jeremiah, of course, gets mad, but Jeremiah tells Mackenzie... But then reveals the sad truth. The radio is unusable. Mackenzie has to deliver the message, relay a message. Jeremiah tells Mackenzie about a person who lives near Perseverance Mills and an important message that he needs to receive. The message is Wintermute. Soon after, they say their goodbye and Mackenzie is on his way to the dam. When Mackenzie reaches the dam, when the aurora is in the sky, he encounters Methuselah, who invites him to sit by the fire and talk a bit. He warns Mackenzie about the changes the world is going through and how humanity is paying the price. Mackenzie is confused, but soon realizes the answer to the question, how far will you go to survive? He leaves Methuselah behind and enters the dam. He makes his way through the dam and into the back room where he is hit on the head and knocked out. He awakens to find Mathis standing there. He begins to interrogate and punch Mackenzie, questioning him about Astrid's locked case. Mackenzie responds with some snarky comments just before Mathis reveals he may have encountered Astrid. After responding with desperation, Mathis picks up a hatchet and knocks him out, ending episode 2. And then we start on episode 3 with Astrid, which is so much longer than what I just read, so get some popcorn if you want. Molly is out hunting and makes her way to the other side of the tunnel. After looking into a car with a frozen corpse, she hears a crow cawing behind her. That's also a thing. Pause. Crows, when you see them like circling or something, it could be a dead animal or a dead human, and you will find some good stuff if you might need, which is nice. She goes to investigate to find Astrid frozen and half dead, buried in the snow. She brings Astrid back to her farmhouse and sets up a bed in the kitchen. After Astrid asks some questions and learns about the power outage, Molly leaves to find some food. She comes back with a bag of meat and offers to have meat and tea, before asking Astrid some questions. Upon asking if Molly had a husband or any family, she goes more defensive and leaves the house. Astrid gets up and looks up to see if she can find. She gets up to see if she can find more about Molly. Soon after, she hears the rotary phone ringing, and when answered, Molly explains that she has gone to the barn and is now surrounded by a pack of wolves. She tells Astrid to retrieve the basement key under her waist and grab her spare revolver and some rifle ammo, and explicitly says to stay out of anything else. She tells her to follow the storm lines to reach the barn. Upon entering the basement, about halfway to the weapons cupboard, a small earthquake occurs, revealing a hand from underneath a blanket on a bed. When inspected, Astrid finds a dead body, similar to the painting she found. Astrid retrieves the revolver and rifle ammo and leaves the basement, to find a heavy blizzard raging outside. She follows the storm lines and reaches the barn, maybe attacked by a wolf or two, to find a wolf carcass with 2 arrows pelted into it. The rotary phone rings again, and Molly says she found her old bow and shot a wolf, which got inside and left. Astrid tells Molly that she found the body, and Molly panics and gets angry at Astrid. Upon hanging up, Astrid finds a map of Pleasant Valley as well as a flyer for the Thompson Crossing Community Hall. She believes perhaps there are supplies or other survivors inside of it. When approaching Thompson Crossing, she sees smoke, indicating there are other people there. When entering the community hall, she finds several sick survivors wrapped up in beds, as well as Father Thomas. Father Thomas proceeds to greet Astrid and thinks that she is from the recent passenger airline crash. And upon denial, Father Thomas thinks that perhaps Astrid has memory loss. However, he says that Astrid is in much better shape than the other survivors and thinks maybe she could help. After explaining she's a doctor, she offers to check on the survivors and see if there's anything serious that needs to be treated. Upon examination, most of the survivors only have hypothermia or other easily healable afflictions. But however, finds a survivor, Dimitri too have type 1 diabetes and needs insulin in order to survive. Father Thomas explains that insulin must be found in Dimitri's own luggage, and that as well as finding the insulin, they must also find the IDs to the friends and family of the survivors to provide closure to regain hope. When Astrid goes to leave Father Thomas, why is there no pause and question mark and punctum? Father Thomas gives her his cross necklace, as he believes it's the only way he can pray for those fallen in the crash, while also taking care of those in the community hall. The rotary phone rings and Molly asks why Astrid wants to help people. She leaves a gift for Astrid in a car next to the playground. Astrid arrives at the crash site and gathers the ID from the frozen corpses. However, among the wreckage she finds someone alive crushed under a seat. Gwen. When examined, Astrid finds she's in shock, has frostbite, and lost a lot of blood. But however, will save her despite these injuries. Next to Gwen, she finds Dimitri's suitcase, along with the insulin. Finding everything she needed, Astrid painstakingly carried Gwen to the community hall, and in a derelict house... Sorry, people made noises outside. Where was I? House down the... Excuse me? Okay. She finds the rotary phone ringing again. Molly reveals that she is spying on Astrid. What the fuck? Okay. When asked more about the dead body, Molly asks if not being able to help someone counts as murder. Astrid says it depends on circumstances and intent. Molly says that she didn't inflict the accident, but her intent was to kill him. What? Oh, yeah. When returning to the community hall, she places Gwen on a newly provided bed and gives Dimitri his insulin. She returns all the IDs she found, but 3 were still missing of the passenger manifest. Father Thomas is pleased, but explains that a monster blizzard usually comes this time of year. Usually they would hunker down the full pantry and a warm fire, but with the increased weather intensity and dwindling supplies, he is afraid they will not make it through the storm. Astrid offers to gather supplies before the storm hits, and also says how she couldn't find 3 passengers on the manifest. Father Thomas suspected those survivors out there and asked Astrid to return them. There's still a lot left, by the way. Astrid gathers the supplies and returns to the survivors, and Father Thomas is forever grateful for the things Astrid did for him. Astrid offers to give the necklace back, but Father Thomas insists she keeps it, to help keep God and him on her side of her adventure. Astrid, while insisting to not be religious, takes the necklace. Father Thomas sees that Astrid has a burden, but while doesn't want to seek fate or change her mind, tries to tell her to share her burden with someone. When asked how to get out of Pleasant Valley, Father Thomas knows of a coal mine which may lead to Perseverance Mills, and draw it on her map. When Astrid prepares to leave, the rotary phone rings again. Molly tells Astrid that the wolves had killed her husband, and she didn't do anything to stop it. She also says that on Signal Hill there is an intact radio which may allow Astrid to contact Perseverance Mills. I cannot keep saying that. Astrid explains why Molly didn't tell her earlier, and Molly was afraid it might not work. Molly ends the call saying how despite being a doctor, Astrid never gets notice or praise for her work, and that Molly's husband belittled and abused her. She asked Astrid if those survivors would do the same to her, and Astrid shrugs it off. Despite the raging blizzard outside, Astrid trudges on towards Signal Hill and finds a convict with arrows lodged in his back outside of the control room. When entering the control room, she tries the radio. It doesn't work. Disappointed, she goes to bed and prepares to leave Pleasant Valley. However, she awakes in the middle of the aurora to find the lights lights on and radio working. She scrambles towards the radio and turns it in to find Mackenzie and Perseverance Mills attempting make contact, with boys' voices being much clearer than what is heard with Mackenzie, and hears more when he gets cut off. She is unable to respond or speak to any of them. The rotary phone rings, and this time Molly explained how she was standing outside with her rifle while her husband was surrounded, how he was screaming at her to shoot, but she was frozen. Molly says that she doesn't regret it, but although he was company, she was abused and made feel small, and that no one should mess with people like them. She says if Astrid would mind it for some reason, Mackenzie had crossed her path and was shot, and Astrid replied that she would prefer to find him without an arrow in his back. Molly then says that she hopes they don't cross paths, before saying goodbye for the final time. With the knowledge that her ex-husband is alive and newfound hope, Astrid leaves Signal Hill and heads into the coal mine. In the middle of going through the tunnel, experiencing several small earthquakes, a bigger earthquake causes her to get crushed by fallen rocks, blocking her path behind. She moves forward to find a broken elevator and 3 broken fuses and is forced to replace them. She rides the elevator up and exits the mine into Desolation Point and witnesses several bleached whales and a shipwreck. The episode ends while she delivers a monologue. So, now we're gonna read episode 4, which is a little shorter, by the way. And this is the one I recently played. Yeah, okay. At the start of episode 4, Furry, then Silence, Will awakens on the stretcher being carried by 2 convicts. Remember how he got in the head with Mathis? With the Hutch? Yes. The man in the cell next to Will reveals himself to be Franklin. Nope, I read too far. Sorry, guys. He's stretcher being carried by 2 convicts, Heller and Vachon, led by Mathis. The gang makes their way to Black Rock Prison before being ambushed by Timberwolves. During the shuffle, Will falls down a cliff and manages to escape the convicts temporarily before being caught by Mathis to end the prologue. The first chapter finds Will locked up inside the prison in a cell. When he wakes up, the man in the cell next to Will reveals himself to be Franklin, the warden of the prison. He tells Will about the history of the prison and its notoriety, before telling Will that the reason Mathis has come here is to free his son Donner, a psychotic criminal who wants nothing more than to kill everyone on the Great Bear Island. Mathis then returns with a Heller and Vacon, and beats Franklin within an inch of his life. As Franklin lays on the verge of death, Will strikes a deal with Heller and Vacon to retrieve this prison infirmary emergency medkit, which contains strong enough medicine to save the warden. Will then leaves the main prison building, and upon arriving in the infirmary, talks with a mysterious stranger over the landmine phone. He then retrieves the emergency kit from a dead guard near Cody's cave, returning to the prison to save the warden. The second chapter starts with Mathis threatening to kill Franklin unless Will does his bidding. He then sends Will throughout the western part of Blackrock in order to reach the power plant, and that power can be returned to the prison to free Donner. Once Will arrives at the plant, the mysterious stranger directs him over the phone to destroy the mechanism that provides power to the solitary confinement wing. Will does so, seemingly thwarting Donner's release. The third chapter begins yet again in Will's cell, with Mathis revealing that he found out about Will's sabotage and is now aware of the stranger directing Will. His new plan to free his son is to use dynamite taken from the Lost Prospect mine. He sends Will to retrieve the detonators needed to utilize the dynamite and the threat of the warden's death. As Will makes his way through the mine and retrieves the detonators, the mysterious stranger calls again, now revealed to be Chase, a grad student who was caught out on the roads by first flare and is now holed up in one of the prison watchtower. She tells Will that she is now going to pursue the nuclear option before Will returns with detonators to the prison. The final chapter of the episode begins with Franklin corpse being wheeled past Will's cell, as Matthew revealed that Franklin told him everything that Will had done and how Jace had guided him the entire way. Before Mattis can execute Will, however, the detonators set the dynamite of... Can you still hear me? Just checking. Okay. Sorry. Engulfing much of the prison in flames. Will escapes his cell and Jace blocks Mattis from getting to Will via manipulating the prison doors. As an aurora has provided temporarily electricity to the prison again, Will then runs through the prison, retrieves the hard case from the warden's office and escapes into the stem tunnel from earlier. He then meets with Jace at the power plant before they are cornered by Mattis and his gang. After a struggle with Mathis, Will and Jace dive into the running through the plant and wash ashore downstream. Will offers to start a fire to warm the half-frozen Jace before the episode ends. Yes. Oh, sorry, is the same song playing on repeat? Sorry. Let me change that for you. And episode 4 for Astrid. Astrid is seen very briefly at the end of episode 4, having commandeered a boat and some blankets from the coastal highway region. Astrid has sailed her way to Perseverance Mills, where she is encountered by the locals. A guard initially mistakes her for a runaway who was broken quarantine, but recognizes her as an outsider. A woman that had been on the phone call in the episode 3 flashback appears, but realizes that Astrid does not have the hard case with her. And that's it. And now I'm just waiting for the episode 5 to come out. I'm gonna check if it's out right now, which I don't think it is, because there's nothing about it on... Yeah, it hasn't come out yet. But yeah. Now you know that. See you soon.